This issue with South Africa didn't start today. It started in 2008, where we were all woken up in one morning to discover that entities within the communities in the townships had basically singled out fellow Africans from Zimbabwe, from Mozambique, from the Congo, and had ordered them to leave their township. Some were killed, others were burnt alive during this time. It's interesting to see that a lot hasn't changed after 2008. Let me give you some context. I grew up in South Africa. I came during the pre-apartheid times, before they got their freedom. We lived in the homelands in Ciskei. And what we realized, or what I realized after apartheid ended, was the systematic separation of Africans from black South Africans. There was something that they were being told in their homes, in their communities, that we were not like them and that we didn't belong. So I remember growing up, sometimes being chased and being told, "Kwere kwere, go back to your country." So this issue is really ingrained. It's something that triggers and brings back a lot of bad memories. Fast forward to 2008, I finished uni. I was, doing my second job in SA. And these xenophobic attacks happened. Now, I want to give you context. During that time, there was a political struggle within the ANC. And there was a lot of service delivery issues that were coming up. A lot of pressure on the municipalities, etc. And I believe that the ruling party needed a scapegoat. So they told South Africans in the townships that the reason why we can't do what we promised to do for you is because there are Africans who are taking up all the resources. And the attacks started. And I recall that feeling, that fear, being afraid to step out after watching what was going on the news, seeing somebody who had been necklaced, where they put a tire around you and they burnt this person alive. For 3 months, I volunteered helping those who were displaced during this first xenophobic attacks in South Africa in 2008. It was a very, very difficult time because I thought I belonged to SA. That is where I formed my formative years. That is where I was educated. That is where I naturalized. And now I was being confronted with the reality that I didn't belong. I was told this growing up by South African children. Kwere kwere, go back to your country. Years later, I was being confronted once again with the 2008 xenophobic attacks. I took the cue and I left and came back to my country of birth, Ghana. This thing hasn't gotten any better. It's getting worse. Do you know why? because a lady called Victoria Africa, and it's ironic that she calls herself Victoria Africa, is stopping fellow Africans using the same tactics as the apartheid regime to stop an African from freely moving and asking for his dompas. Dear South Africa, what is going on? What is happening to your nation? What is happening to your country? That ordinary South Africans are being told that the reason why your government isn't able to give out the service deliveries because fellow Africans are taking up resources, and they are the reasons why they are in the rut that they are in. It is a lie, a blatant lie. Africans are being made to be the scapegoats, and they are conditioning the younger generation of South Africans to think that they are not Africans, or they are not part of Africa, or they are better than Africans, and that Africans should go back to where they come from. Over the years, this issue has gotten worse and worse. And now South Africans are being emboldened to stop anyone they choose to ask for their dompas, their passports. I'm addressing this issue because I think that African governments are not taking this as seriously as they should. I would liken South Africa to a pressure cooker, one that is not closed properly, and so it's developing an imbalance that will cause an explosion very soon. And this explosion that is bubbling under right now, they're going to use Africans as the scapegoats because their government is failing their people. South Africa has turned into a criminal state where resources are concentrated in the hands of a very few. State resources that are supposed to go to the people of South Africa are not. And they are being told in the townships that it's Black Africans who are the reason for this. It is a lie. Ghanaians who are in South Africa, if you can, come home. There's a place for you here. We need your skills, we need your mind, we need your resources. If you can, come home. Because when this pressure cooker erupts eventually, there's no discrimination of whether or not you're Nigerian, you're Congolese, you're Zimbabwean. For us Ghanaians, we thought that we weren't part of this xenophobic attacks. We thought, oh, this is a problem for the Nigerians and the Congolese. It's a problem for the Zimbabweans and the Mozambicans. You see what has happened? Do you see what has happened? Let this be your cue. The trauma in that nation that hasn't been addressed will be visited upon fellow Africans. The trauma that they experienced during apartheid, the dehumanization of Black South Africans during apartheid, that trauma is being passed from generation to generation without being addressed. That healing that was supposed to happen during the TRC process in South Africa, that never happened, is a pressure cooker waiting to explode. And their nation's leaders are turning a blind eye. Do you know why? because they have a scapegoat. The black African is their scapegoat. They will present the black African to them, the South Africans, when this pressure cooker erupts. And our governments will be powerless to protect its people. If you can, come back to Ghana. If you can, if you have the resources, disinvest and return and rebuild here. Nobody can tell you to go back when you are here in your own country. Nobody will tell you to go back if you return to your own nation. No one is going to traumatize you. You know, when I was living in South Africa, I never realized the kind of post-traumatic stress that I was under during that time. Because you're constantly living in fear. You don't know what is going to happen to you in that country. When I came to Ghana, I understood what peace was. If you can, return. Victoria, Africa, I want to address you, my sister. I understand your frustration. Your government has failed you. But the approach you are using to express your protest is un-African. You call yourself Victoria African, but what you're doing is not, it has no blueprint of what an African is. South Africans have that term of Ubuntu that says, I am because you are. And my sister, you've forgotten this. You've forgotten who you are as an African. Let me tell you something. We have people from all walks of life here in Ghana, from all nations in Africa here in Ghana. We have the Nigerians, we have our Togolese brothers, we have our Senegalese, they are all here. The Kenyans are here, even the South Africans are here. But we live in harmony with them. If there's an issue, our authorities handle it. We trust them to handle it. Our immigration services, our police, they handle it. We don't take things into our own hands. We don't take matters into our own hands, my sister. Service delivery issues is a real thing in South Africa. Let's just say, this is not the way to go. I promise you. Don't lose your humanity because you have been dehumanized. That is what apartheid sought to do to black South Africans. And that healing never happened. Why are you passing on your trauma to fellow Africans? Victoria, what you're doing is very dangerous, my sister. And it's going to be something that's going to rest on your conscience for a very long time. It's something that's going to follow your generations for a very long time. Because you're victimizing people who are innocent. And the laws of nature, eventually something is going to give. You will have blood on your hands eventually. Because you're encouraging other South Africans to behave in the way you are behaving. You can do better. There are ways. A few months ago, we had the Nigerian who decided that they had a kingdom in Ghana. We had the same issues that you had. The issues that you had in East London when the Nigerians had created their own kingdom. We had the same issues, but the outcomes were very different, my sister. We dealt with them. We dealt with the Nigerians, but it didn't erupt into violence like what we saw in East London. There's something at the core within a South African, there's something that is not settled. There's a restlessness in that nation that needs to be addressed. There's a restlessness that is being channeled into violence and into dehumanizing women and Africans that needs to be addressed. So Victoria, Africa, use your voice to build instead of destroy. Africa doesn't need this. We don't need division. This is a time for us, rather, to come together. This is our opportunity, actually, for us to leapfrog into a different dimension in terms of our economy and everything. And you're setting us back, my sister. You're setting us way back. Because as Ghanaians, we are not going to stand there and have you victimize our fellow brother and our fellow sisters there. When they have legitimacy, they have a legitimate right to be in the country. You don't have a right to stop somebody and ask them for their passport, Sister Yam. You don't. If you feel like that needs to be addressed, contact Home Affairs and let Home Affairs deal with it. And what you're doing is dangerous. It's very dangerous. I want to also address our government. Please don't take this issue lightly. What I witnessed in 2008 was the start of this. And it hasn't gotten any better. It's only now that a Ghanaian has been involved, so people are paying attention to it. They've been doing this to Africans since 2008. And it seems that they're in the majority now. It's a very small minority who don't think this way anymore in South Africa. And that is the scary part. Because now who's going to save you? Who's going to give you shelter when the attacks start? Who's going to give you that reprieve? There's healing that needs to be done in SA. An exorcism of what happened during the apartheid era. It needs to be addressed. The deaths that couldn't be explained, the families that were broken. The deprivation that was experienced. We can do better, and we should do better. SA, you can do better. Let nobody keep quiet about this issue. Speak up and shame those who need to be shamed. They don't remember what we did for them during apartheid. They don't, and that is okay. What I would say is that if South Africa in general feel like they're not part of Africa, Africa, leave them and let's watch. Because Ubuntu will always come into play. We need each other, but perhaps we need to leave them alone before they realize this. When one nation is in crisis, they rely on another nation for shelter. It happened in Liberia when they came to Ghana during their civil war. We went to Nigeria at a point in the late 70s and returned in the 80s. That is what Africa does. That is what we do as a nation, as people. We understand each other's struggles and we help each other along the way. If you're doing something that isn't right, rely on your authorities to correct it. Nobody's saying you should go to a country and misbehave or flout their laws. But use the right channels, my sister. Because what you're doing is not. It's not going to fly anyway. Do better. We expect more from you. You're a public figure now. You can't move the way you've been moving. It's un-African. There's been a systematic something, the last thing I want to address. Those who came during the apartheid era, and I'm talking about Ghanaians and other Africans who came during the apartheid era, who lived in those homelands and naturalized and got their citizenship. I was told that they are being denied their IDs now in South Africa. So when I tell you that there's something going on that isn't being addressed, that's being swept under the carpet, our embassies need to sit up. Because if somebody has passed through the right channels to naturalize, they have every right to be in that nation. And they have every right to whatever that nation has to offer because they are contributing like any other citizen. Let's demand that the right things are done, especially in these situations. Let's be candid and frank about what is going on. Let's call a spade a spade. SA, South Africans need to sit up and interrogate within themselves what is really going on for you to hate somebody that looks just like you. They may speak a different language, but they look just like you. They have the same struggles you have. So what is it? What is it? Can we address that? The elephant in the room? Can we do better? I hope this improves, these issues or the situation improves and the dialogue begins to happen, the real dialogue. I see so many South Africans when these things are posted, oh, it's not all South Africans, it's just a few people that are tarnishing our name. No! You know the conversations you have in your homes about foreigners. You know the discussions that happen during brides on Saturdays about foreigners. Be honest. Tell the truth. You don't do this to the white foreigners, those Eastern Europeans that are all over the place in South Africa. Why is it so easy for you to harm somebody that looks like you? I've taken this issue very personally because I spent my formative years in South Africa, and at the back of my mind, I have no desire to return because of the things that I've been seeing. And it's a pity, it's a shame. Do you know why? Because you have people who can contribute to improving the social fabric of your nation, and you're repelling them. For a nation to thrive, you need all kinds of people to make the culture rich. And what you choose to do is to reject your fellow African. What a shame and what a pity. Let's embrace that spirit of Ubuntu as Africans. Ghanaians, we do so well with it, with our hospitality, with how we open up to people. And when we are wrong, we address it and we say we are wrong. Can South Africa say that? Can South Africa do that? Can we collectively, can South Africans collectively be honest about what is really going on in that nation and address those elephants in the room? The failure of their governments. Can they? The day they do is when the real healing will begin. The day they start telling the truth. The day they start looking within. That is when the truth will set them free, will set that nation free. Right now, it's looking dire. Right now, it's dangerous for fellow Africans. So I want to end off and say, if you can, disinvest and return home to your nations and build your nation. Come back. Ghanaians, come back. Come home. If you can, brefie. That was the advice my mom gave to me. I said, Mame, brefie. And I listened, and I'm glad I did. It's almost 20 years ago that I left. And it's been the best decision I ever made. Because if you obi antimi nka nkyerɛ sɛ kofie obi antimi nka nkyerɛ sɛ you don't belong. We have this obsession with wanting to leave our countries. You know the abundance that is here in Ghana? Do you know the opportunities that are here in Ghana if we just choose to open our eyes to it? Nobody should go hungry in this nation. When I'm driving, I see bordia growing wildly, avocado growing. There's food all around us. There's opportunity in this nation. So if you can, Ghanaian South Africans, come home, brefie, and leave them to whatever it is that they choose to do there, for your own sake, for your own safety. South Africa is not a nation to build your life. It isn't. They've told us very blatantly and blankly, and we are choosing to be deaf to what it is that they are saying. They say we don't belong, we should go back to our countries. Let's go back to our countries. Brefie. Come and build here. You will get the support you need. Thank you for listening to my rant.